New developments in the deadly hit-and-run case of 3-year-old Jairee Matthews. Tonight, we're breaking down what happened on July 18th in the parking lot of a shopping center on the northeast side. It's a story you'll only find on WRTV. Our Rachael Wilkerson has been following this tragedy. And Rachel, the family here, they just want answers.
They do, Mark. The family is hurting. Video we are about to show you for the first time paints a picture of what happened to Jairee. The driver hasn't been charged, and Jairee's father is frustrated.
I just want justice for my boy. It's like every day, this is something that I think about.
A cross, teddy bear, and basketball serves as a reminder of 3-year-old Jairee Matthews. His father, John Matthews, misses his baby boy.
Trying to be strong. How can you be strong? It's hard.
On July 18th, Jairee's mother, Lakia, told investigators she pulled into this Clearwater Village parking lot on 82nd Street because of car trouble and was waiting for help. Footage from a nearby bank shows Jairee playing with his basketball for several minutes. What happens next forever changes their lives. We've edited this video out of respect for Jairee and his family. You can see the 3-year-old is playing and sits on his basketball before this white SUV turns into the parking lot. Within seconds, Jairee is run over. The driver keeps going. His mother rushes to his side shortly after. Jairee died at Peyton Manning Hospital.
I just don't see how that's possible for you not to see a human being in your vision as you're driving, and it just don't seem right.
IMPD began the search for the person responsible using pictures from the bank. Police reports show a sticker on the back of the SUV and black spoke wheels stood out. Technology throughout the city led detectives to this: a 2016 white Toyota RAV4 linked to a 58-year-old woman. We aren't naming her because she hasn't been charged with the crime. 3 days after the deadly hit and run, investigators saw what appeared to be dried blood on the mud flap of the driver's side front wheel, according to the search warrant affidavit. They questioned the driver, who records show admitted to being in the area. She told detectives, quote, she did not hit a child, but thought she ran over a new speed bump in the parking lot.
It's hurtful.
We went to the person of interest's home. The SUV was parked outside. There was no answer at the door and no answer on the phone.
How frustrated are you?
You really don't want to know. It's just every moment of the day is difficult for me now.
It's been months since the incident.
Every time I think about how long it's been, my blood just gets to boiling.
Matthews wants closure. There's
no way all these months we haven't seen anything yet as far as justice for my son. It's been 6-7 months and he's just gone. That's pretty much it. Nobody's in custody over it. Nobody ever been in custody over it.
While the family seeks accountability, it assures the legacy of 3-year-old Jairee Matthews will live on.
He definitely was gonna play ball once he got older. It's just, I hate that this happened to him so early. He had a bright future, you know what I mean? Could have been a future placer player.
Jairee's 4th birthday would have been in January. The Marion County Prosecutor's Office says the case is still under investigation. We'll be back right after this break.
A somber scene for the Tice community. Many of these residents have lost almost everything. Mattresses, couches, and children's toys like this stuffed bear here line Montgomery Avenue. This is a result from the powerful storm surge. Residents are out here cleaning up the mess left behind and trying to salvage what they can. You can see clothes are hanging up. We've seen families have to throw away family photos because of how severe the water damage is. Residents tell me they tried to ride the storm out in their homes, but decided to evacuate once the water was up to their hips. They tell me they're thankful they did, but are saddened this happened to their community. I've seen neighbors stepping in to help each other, to bag up some of the debris, to bring mattresses onto the roadway here. And that togetherness is what residents tell me is going to help them get through this. Reporting in Tice, I'm Rachael Wilkerson.
TV investigates the financial crisis facing the Indianapolis Housing Agency.
We're digging deeper into the agency's expenses and outstanding debt.
WRTV's Rachael Wilkerson is looking into the IHA's independent audit and breaking down what this means for the people relying on the services provided by the IHA.
Mark, these documents show that the Indianapolis Housing Agency is having a tough time paying its bills. And after looking through these papers, we now know why.
Right now, it's tough making payroll here.
Bills are piling up at the Indianapolis Housing Agency.
We owe $1,081,000 in payables to various vendors and contractors.
This independent financial audit shows IHA also has $19 million in long-term debt. In 2021, it brought in $11 million, but lost $82 million in operating expenses. It's nearly the same story for 2020. And now interim executive director Marsha Lewis says the agency can't keep up.
So basically, when residents ask, how did we get here? The simple answer is the agency overspent money year after year.
Yes, yeah.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. I'm right now thinking about moving because I can't deal with all this.
The financial instability is frustrating for residents who say they've been neglected for years, with lack of maintenance workers, trash pickup, and insufficient funds for resident services.
Everybody's frustrated and disappointed.
WRTV Investigates found in some cases money that was supposed to be used for residents were mishandled and used for payroll and more.
There was funds used for other programs here that should only have been used for things associated with the voucher program.
Lewis says the bottom line is the agency is spending more money than what's coming in. On Wednesday, IHA put Milliken en masse up for sale in hopes by selling this commercial property, it can get its bank account stable. Lewis says 13 out of the agency's 16 properties could also go up for sale. It would leave the housing agency responsible for Barton Towers, Barton Annex, and Concord.
Milliken alone should allow us to pay off the debt. But the other properties, if they achieve the kinds of possible revenue that we're hoping, will create a savings, it will create a reserve, will create a long-term reserve so that we will not be in this position again.
If that happens, Lewis says residents will not be displaced. Rent will still be for low-income residents. Management is the only thing that changes.
We are still waiting for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's financial report on the agency. In the meantime, IHA has released its moving forward plan. We'll have that plan on our website at WRTV.com. Nicole.
On the road to recovery, a 6-year-old is pushing forward after a devastating hit-and-run crash earlier this year. WRTV's Rachael Wilkerson sat down exclusively with Vincian Martin and his grandfather today for this heartwarming update.
6 months ago, Vincian Martin was hit by a driver here on Rural Street. Tonight, he shares his story and thanks the community for its support.
Despite his challenges, Vincian Martin keeps a smile on his face.
You feel okay now?
Yeah.
In April, a hit-and-run driver left him lying on Rural Street. At the time, he was 5.
My ball at the street. I was playing basketball on the street. No, on the sidewalk, I mean. And my ball went out the street, and I stopped running to it, and I looked both ways, and I started going, and I got hit.
His grandfather, Gerald Hatcher, rushed to help him. He's hoping to one day ask the driver why.
That was devastating. If it wasn't for the hand of God upon his life, he would have been dead. He would have been dead.
Try to put your foot flat when you take a step.
From quickly walking again in the hospital to now, Vincian continues to amaze his family, friends, and the community as he heals.
He's just a super little kid. You know, he keeps me going.
While it hasn't been easy,
But I don't like getting hurt.
the 6-year-old says he calls on a higher power.
I was saying, God, and what if you help us, and in the name of the Jesus.
From Get Well Soon signs, balloons, hugs, prayers, and more, the community is proud to see Vincian thrive.
What you want to say to the people who pray for you and all that? What you want to tell them?
I tell them I love them.
As Vincian moves forward in life, his grandfather, who's been with him every step of the way, has this request.
Keep praying for him, pray for me, that I continue to be the pawpaw that I need to be for him, and watching God give me the strength that I can just watch him grow and be what God wants me to be.
Working for you, Rachael Wilkerson, WRTV.
Less than 24 hours away now from potentially being cut off. What is your plan?
I really don't have one because, I mean, like I said, I don't have any family to go stay with.
In less than 10 hours, hundreds of residents living at 2 Southside apartment complexes will lose their access to running water because of unpaid bills. Good evening to you at 11 o'clock. I'm Mark Mullins.
And I'm Nicole Griffin. Those bills were supposed to be paid by management of Berkeley Commons and Capitol Place apartments.
WRTV's Rachael Wilkerson checked in with residents who are now counting down the minutes until shutoff, and they're unsure of what will happen next.
Citizens Energy says shutting off residents' water isn't something they want to do, but are forced to because of high unpaid bills. Residents say it's unfair and shouldn't be happening.
We're being punished for something that we had no control over, and potentially our kids being removed.
Residents of Berkeley Commons and Capitol Place apartments are worried about what's going to happen if their water is shut off.
The concerns with this is that I have 5 kids. We're not going to have any running water. They have to have working utilities, water, electricity, all of it. So what's going to happen to all of the families in here with kids, and DCS, comes in here, we don't have running water. I mean, can they pull our kids away from us for that? I mean, we don't know.
Citizens Energy says the amount owed by both properties is, quote, just too large. It's been in communication with the management company JPC, but a payment agreement wasn't reached. Citizens Energy says it will begin shutting water off Thursday around 9 a.m. Gas will also be shut off at Capitol Place.
It's horrible. Now we're going to have to find somewhere else to stay.
Brenda Jones has been living at Berkeley Commons with her son for 4 years.
See, here's my water bill for February, the one I just paid this month.
She's frustrated her family is put in this situation when she has receipts showing she's paid her rent, water, and gas on time.
It makes me feel mad because everybody in here pays our rent. We pay $50 a month in water, and then we pay our gas bill to the office. And they're supposed to pay the Citizens Energy.
Disconnect notices were placed on residents' doors Thursday.
This one is the water, this one is the gas.
Since then, Ashley Kelly says residents haven't been able to get answers.
Nobody wants to tell us anything, and I think that's the thing that is most frustrating.
Today, we reached out to management at Berkeley Commons.
You guys are actually supposed to be over on city property, not on ours. Goodbye.
Okay, but I have a question for you.
The door was shut in our face. We also went to the leasing office at Capitol Place Apartments. It was closed, although the hours say 9 to 6.
What plan do you have right now?
Just wait and see. Hopefully they make a payment arrangement. My next recourse will be call the health department, call the attorney general.
The Marion County Public Health Department says if the water is shut off, it will cite the property owner for an emergency violation, and the owner will have 24 hours to restore the water service, or the department will take legal action. Working for you, I'm Rachael Wilkerson, WRTV.
A crisis in Indiana.
Fatal drug overdoses by the thousands.
More than 2,500 Hoosiers overdosed and died in 2021.
And one drug is proving to be especially deadly for our neighbors.
WRTV Investigates Rachael Wilkerson joins us live in studio tonight.
Rachel, you've been working on this story for weeks. Just how big is the drug epidemic?
Nicole and Mark, so far this year, more than 500 people have died from overdoses in Marion County alone. The coroner's office says nearly 80% of those deaths were from fentanyl. For perspective, there have been around 150 homicides in 2022, so deadly overdoses are outpacing deaths from violent crime.
We've seen the most deaths that we've seen in probably 10 years or more.
The opioid crisis is claiming the lives of Hoosiers at an alarming rate.
It's so sad to say that it's nearly every day and sometimes 3 to 4 times a day that we are investigating a drug overdose death.
Marion County Deputy Coroner Alfarina McGinty says Indianapolis is on track to shatter 2021's record number of overdoses. Her office has investigated 500 overdose deaths so far this year. Nearly 70 more cases are still pending toxicology results.
It is very scary, yeah.
McGinty says fentanyl, which is a powerful synthetic opioid that the CDC lists as 50 to 100 times more powerful than morphine, is the driving force behind these deaths.
The majority. Again, you know, fentanyl is mixed in everything. Any pills that we see, any powdery substance that we see on death investigation scenes. The fentanyl is, by and large, one of the ingredients that is in those substances that are ingested.
What's even scarier for McGinty is she's never seen as many different strands of fentanyl being found on our streets and toxicology reports.
So it's not just one type of fentanyl or just fentanyl. There's probably 10 different analogs that we are seeing, and they impact people differently when they ingest them. So it's a critical issue that we can't really wrap our hands around how we deal with it.
A small amount can kill.
Just 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be considered a lethal dosage unit, just enough to maybe fit on the tip of a pencil.
Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA special agent in charge, Michael Gannon, says fentanyl is made in China, shipped to Mexico, and then brought across the border.
And then the cartels take full advantage of that, and then they'll put that in all types of drugs, and then they flood the United States with the fentanyl, whether it's in a powdered form or in various pills.
Hundreds of thousands of pills and kilos of the deadly drug has come through the crossroads of America. Fentanyl is used in hospitals, but now Gannon says drug dealers are illegally experimenting in labs with higher and lower doses of fentanyl, lacing heroin, cocaine, meth, pain pills, and more. The pills often look identical to prescription medication.
You could put them right next to each other, and you can't always determine the difference.
The drugs get passed from dealer to dealer. Many don't even know fentanyl is present until an overdose.
At the end of the day, they don't care about someone. They care about making money, an easy way. And if someone were to get harmed because of it, they look at it like, oh, well.
It's very devastating. I don't understand, or there's no human compassion, how anybody can put this drug out there knowing that it's killing so many people. I guess that overall, the money must be more important than lives.
Brenda Trent knows the pain this crisis is causing families.
He was my baby.
She lost her son, Carl Carnes, in June to an overdose.
It was a pretty bad scene. He'd been in the car for 2 days.
The 30-year-old was a father, son, brother, and husband-to-be.
He loved his mama, and he didn't hurt me, but I understood.
Trent says Carnes battled addiction for 15 years.
Went from Vicodin to the stronger Oxycontin. Then when the FDA or whoever pulled the doctors from prescribing that stuff, then it became the heroin. That's, but he was more than an addict. He was my son.
The Carnes family isn't alone in their grief. Marion, Lake, and Allen counties have the highest opioid death rates in Indiana, but every county is suffering.
So we just are trying to keep up. We're spinning our wheels. Toxicology labs, coroner's offices, medical examiner offices are essentially spinning our wheels trying to keep up.
McGinty says death investigations are at an all-time high. To keep up with the cost and high demand of death investigations,
we're looking at roughly close to $3,000 per investigation when you talk about all the time that goes into these types of investigations.
The Indiana Department of Health is pouring $1.5 million into county coroners' offices across the state. The state also received more than $29 million in federal grants this year for drug prevention, treatment, and enforcement.
There is no better time to spend these dollars to prevent the next crisis that's coming.
Investigators say although resources are in place, the grim reality is fentanyl isn't going away anytime soon.
So it's a critical issue that we can't really wrap our hands around how we deal with it.
To help curb this crisis in Indiana, the government and local organizations are spending millions on naloxone, also known as Narcan. It's a life-saving opioid overdose treatment available in all 92 of our counties. Paramedics tell me drugs laced with fentanyl are so potent, up to 4 doses of Narcan are being used to bring patients back to life instead of just the usual single dose. So that shows you just how powerful fentanyl is in our community.
It is amazing just to see that laid out in that way. So Rachel, tell us, how are the agencies working together to crack down on these dealers that are putting this in our streets?
They're tracking the compounds found in fentanyl that they're finding in the toxicology reports, and they're also keeping a close eye on trends. For example, earlier this year, nearly 50 people died in one weekend from overdoses, which sparked an investigation into if the bad batches were from the same dealer.
A very troubled upbringing. That is how the shooter who opened fire at the Greenwood Park Mall in July is being described.
And today, police and the FBI provided an update on the investigation. WRTV's Rachael Wilkerson tells us what they've learned and the challenges they're still dealing with.
Greenwood Police Chief James Eisen says we may never know why the shooter walked into the Greenwood Park Mall that day in July, killing 3 people, injuring several others. What investigators have found is the shooter was fascinated with mass shootings, was going through a rough time, and never indicated that he was about to commit the crimes.
He did not communicate his intentions via electronic media or directly to anyone. He also did not leave a note or manifesto citing his motivation.
These pictures show mass shooter Jonathan Saperman enter the food court of the Greenwood Park Mall on July 17th. He has a black backpack and is on his phone. Chief Eisen says no one suspected he was about to go on a shooting spree.
Not one person suspected of this young man as he was walking in. Nothing stood out that was going to happen.
Victor Gomez, Rosa, and Pedro Pineda were the 3 people killed. They were all Hispanic. Chief Eisen says while the shooter was described to investigators as racist towards Hispanic and black people, the department cannot definitively say that they were racially targeted. While searching for the motive, investigators found the shooter was in and out of foster care. He had an extensive history within Child Protection Services from 11 to 18 years old. Chief Eisen says the shooter was being evicted and was financially cut off from his family. The shooter's laptop, which was burned from inside his apartment oven, could not be recovered. The feds are still working on cracking his phone password, but Chief Eisen says that could take years. Eisen says the shooter was fascinated with mass shootings and Nazis, which was expressed on social media.
In fact, from 2017 to 2022, the shooter made over 700 comments on subreddits related to mass killers.
July 17th, 2022 is a chaotic day that many won't forget.
There's been a shooting at the Greenwood Park Mall. There's an active shooter in the Greenwood.
While families and friends continue to mourn the tragedy, survivors are thankful for Elijah Dicken. He took down the shooter within 15 seconds. The Johnson County Prosecutor's Office is not pressing charges.
He truly saved my grandson's lives. Truly saved their lives.
In Greenwood, Rachael Wilkerson, WRTV.
A faded crosswalk, speeding drivers, and heavy traffic has several residents scared to cross a downtown street. WRTV's Rachael Wilkerson is working for you and took those concerns to the city. Tonight, she has results.
I am ecstatic. That was one of the things that we definitely needed.
With a fresh coat of paint, this crosswalk on East Street comes alive.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Crossing hasn't been easy for several residents at Barton Towers and Barton Annex.
It's just mind-boggling to know that when we reach this point right here, this stop point, that we'll be in a big danger zone.
The Indianapolis Housing Agency says most of the residents living in these 2 downtown public housing complexes are elderly.
And I'm feared that I might get hit someday soon. You know, they won't stop and I have to cross, you know.
2 weeks ago, WRTV captured residents like Torrance Johnson in power chairs struggling to get across the faded crosswalk.
How unsafe do you feel?
I feel very unsafe because You know, I am in a scooter and I have to wait sometimes maybe 5 to 3 minutes to cross the street.
You can't tell it's a crosswalk. First of all, that's a big issue.
This is property manager Shalata Bright.
I'm walking across the street going from one property to the next, and the dump truck stopped for me to walk across the street, and the car behind him was really quite impatient and went around him, sped up, and I'm so glad I stood there, wasn't on my phone or anything. She would have hit me. She would have ran me down in the middle of the street.
There are pedestrian signs and flashing lights, which are meant to signal the pedestrian right-of-way, yet drivers don't always yield. Residents are hoping this improved crosswalk will make a major difference.
There is a major problem. They're ignoring the crosswalk sign. So hopefully by the paint job that we just received, maybe they'll start looking up.
Working for you, Rachael Wilkerson, WRTV.